Hello, my name is Alexia Leachman and my thing is all about taking the fear out of birth. Now I do that through my Fear-Free Childbirth podcast, but I also do that through working one-to-one with pregnant women and helping them to overcome and clear their fears, but also by working with birth professionals because birth professionals have fears too. But I also train birth professionals and non-birth professionals actually in my fear clearance method that's based on a new energy therapy. So I am delighted to do this video series because one thing I'm discovered, or that I'm very much aware of, is how much of our own stuff gets in the way of us being able to help others. And I certainly know that from a therapeutic perspective in terms of what gets in the way of me being able to better support my clients. But when it comes to birth professionals, there is so much more that might be getting in the way of you being able to really support the women that you work with. So I am delighted to be able to partner up with Kicki Hansard from Birth Bliss Doulas to really talk about this and talk about how we can raise the game, step up and be a better birth worker by becoming more aware of who we are and what is going on for us, and maybe addressing some of that stuff so that it doesn't get in the way of us being amazing at what we do and therefore supporting women in the best way possible. So Kiki and I have got together and we've created 3 videos where we're talking at length about the kind of stuff that really can get in the way of you being the most brilliant birth worker that you can possibly be. Now obviously there's a lot of stuff here that we've got to talk about, so we've got 3 videos. We ended up just pressing record and having a really great conversation because every time Kiki and I get together we end up talking about so much good stuff that we regret not recording it, so this time that's what we did. So over the 3 courses of the 3 videos that we've recorded, there are 3 things that we really want to talk about with you. The first one is what the emotional roller coaster of being a birth worker and what that means, and why you need your self-care team, your care team around you, and why you need to take part in self-care to really help to support you so that you're better able to support others. In the second video we talk all about the emotional needs that you might have just as a human being or as a woman, and how any of those might start getting in the way of you being able to be your best version in terms of being a birth worker. How many of your emotional needs are getting in the way of you doing great work and supporting the women you work with and the families you work with. And then finally, this is where it really matters. Are any of your emotional needs getting in the way of you charging your worth and succeeding in business as a doula or a midwife or any other kind of birth professional? So we really address or look at how your emotional needs might be getting in the way of your success in terms of your work and the financial success and sustainability of what you do. So that is what I'm going to be talking about over the next 3 videos. I hope you enjoy them. Certainly Kiki and I had an absolute laugh doing them, really enjoyed it, and it's not all laughs, believe me, we did talk about some more difficult experiences that we've had as well. So I hope you enjoy the videos. Hey Kiki, I cannot wait to do this video series that we're doing. So today we are going to talk, this is video 1, and we are going to do a 3-part video series just exploring the various aspects of the emotional life of a birth professional. Is that a good way to describe it?
I think so, yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I'm really excited too because we find that every time we get together we have so much to chat and talk about. So I'm really excited that we're going to record something and actually offer something to everyone.
Yeah, because there's so much good stuff that we end up chatting about and we always end up going, hey, we should have recorded this. So here we are, we're recording it now. So in this first chat, we want to talk about the emotional roller coaster that is being a birth professional, such as a doula or a midwife. Mm-hmm. And because birth is such a powerful event, it's beautiful, but it can be brutal, and those people that work within it are just, you know, they need to pick themselves up every single time and bring their best selves to every birth, and that is not easy, is it?
No, it can be really, really challenging, absolutely.
So when I can't sit here and say that I've rocked up to loads of births like you have. So just talk a little bit more about how you found that.
Well, I mean, that's often the case that when you are a doula, or maybe any birth professional, but I can only talk about my own experiences, is that you have to kind of contain everything that goes on in the birthing room. So you're kind of like soaking up all of the negativity sometimes. And also sometimes you have to keep a really brave face on yourself, even the things are happening that aren't particularly nice. But the parents might not be aware, or by you taking that on, they don't maybe get as traumatized, but you are the one that's going to end up feeling quite traumatized. So there's times when you come out of a birth and you think, well, why am I doing this? Really, that was so bad. Majority of the time, it's really positive and you feel on top of the world. But there's also those times when it just feels like you think you should have done more, you just feel frustrated, really, for your clients.
And have you found, when you were a doula, that you found that maybe there were things happening in the birth that were kind of triggering you, like winding you up or stressing you out, but you noticed maybe the parents weren't being affected and this was just your stuff, not their stuff? Was that happening to you?
Absolutely. And even though it's a key thing to kind of reflect on these things in the doula courses that are on offer, and to go through your own experience, you're still always going to have stuff, unless you do some really good work around it, that's going to trigger you. But also sometimes it's just the fact that you might learn something or hear something that you just could not imagine in your wildest dreams. Something that's this woman's been through or this couple has experienced, and you still have to kind of not react to it completely, freak out, because obviously you can't do that. And then you realize later maybe how that impacted on you, and it can be really tough, dealing with these things sometimes, because it's quite a lonely job. You are on your own when you're a doula. You have your colleagues and you have your family, but still it's a lot of stuff that you just, you have to experience on your own.
So what kind of, do you have any, what kind of preparation work were you putting in place, maybe to protect yourself in advance of a birth, or to kind of boost your emotional resistance or resilience going into birth? Were there things that you were doing going into a birth that would help you to kind of feel all emotionally strong and ready for what was coming?
No. There wasn't. At the beginning, I was very naive, and I was very much like, I just, I guess the more and the longer you do the job, the more actually impact it has on you, because you get really good at tuning in to the energy, to what's going on with the people around you, and what the lows and the highs in the birthing room. So it was only something that I discovered later, after many years and many births, that actually there is some thinking to do and some planning around how to protect yourself. And I still don't have, I think what I do is I kind of close down some of my emotional responses, which sounds really strange, but I kind of detach myself. I notice myself doing that to be able to be there without being totally emotionally involved, like the father would be, for example. So there's some kind of distance. I think that's what I do, but I don't have any really great ways forward, strategies, but I might some.
Yeah, well, I've got some I'd love to share with you later on. But I'm just wondering, like that shutting down your emotional bit, do you think that compromises your ability to hold the space or to be there for her as you do that?
It depends. I mean, when I say closing, it's kind of if things are really going a bit manic. So, for example, there's something going on, they're worried about something, the woman gets really stressed, she starts getting very vocal, maybe she's shouting and screaming a bit, and the dad's trying to kind of, trying to shut her off, and the midwives are running around. I think what I'm meaning is I'm tuning out from all the commotion, and I'm tuning into kind of, okay, I just need to be here right now. Well, I guess my detachment is, I can't fix this. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to get, pulled into doing the same thing. And I really try to just focus on holding her hand, for example, or not even saying anything. But so I think I'm not closing down what I'm feeling, but I'm kind of trying not to get involved in everything else that's going on, and just thinking my focus is with this woman and I need to just check in with her, and that's how I like
so one thing that I think that a lot of doula courses teach is the importance of having a care team.
Yes.
Tell me, like, what, for me, I come to that and think, yeah, of course you need that care team, but I imagine that maybe some people don't fully appreciate why you need a care team. So, like, what would you say? Like, why do you need a care team?
Well, because we give so much of ourselves, our oxytocin, our, listening. It's completely an unconditional love, I guess, we have for our clients, if you want to call it that, because it is at the end of the day. So I find that you feel very depleted after a birth. It takes me a few days, honestly. Not only just the lack of sleep sometimes, but also the emotional kind of just getting that kind of out of your body. And so I have a reflexologist that I see. So I always book myself some kind of body work after a birth. So if it's a massage, reflexology, some type of treatment, so kind of put something back into my body, which it does. And I think the people I see are kind of also listeners, so they're not only I don't just turn up for the acupuncture or the reflexology. We also have a chat, I'm really close with them. They're specially picked, my special care team. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to find people that you connect with. Well, that's what I feel anyway. So, and it's very tiring for husbands and partners, to listen to doulas go on and on about what happened at work. So other doulas, I think, are important as well, because they're really the only ones that know exactly what you're on about. And most can identify with those feelings that you have as a birth worker when something has happened, because similar things happen.
So what about when there's been a particularly difficult experience that you've come out of, in terms of maybe whether you need something a little bit more meaty than maybe a foot massage or a body massage? Maybe that you need something more. Who else would you go to in the aftermath of birth?
Well, if you have a good therapist of some kind, so it all depends what works for you. There's different types of talking therapy I'm talking about. I do have someone that I have seen, and it's strange because I haven't really, I can't say in my first 12 years of being a doula, I never felt that I was traumatized. I had times that were quite tough, but I got through those with my normal kind of therapists, with the chatting to friends and stuff. I think it would be good to have. It is good to have someone else that can actually. But again, if that can be another doula, it doesn't have to be a qualified, psychotherapist. It can just be someone that is good at listening, and ideally someone that works in the birthing world, because it's easier then. I think if you're talking to someone that understands, because it's not necessarily always to do with what happened in your childhood, why you got traumatized at someone's birth, but so I guess it depends. So
you mentioned that you had the 12 years of being a doula and nothing happened. So does that mean that after 12 years something did happen?
Yes. I did. I had a really, really challenging birth which really surprised me. So I went. I can't tell the whole story because obviously I don't want to break the confidentiality of my client. But it was in a birth where it went on for quite a long time. But also I learned something in that birth from the woman herself. And after hearing what she told me in confidence, it affected me much deeper than I thought. And it was a long birth. It was really traumatic, actually. It ended up where everything was fine, but it was trauma at the end of it. I was left on my own with the husband in the room because they had to take this woman away to have a crash cesarean. So it was literally very hairy. And I got home and went to bed, and I just couldn't stop crying, and I was a total mess. And I was thinking, what's wrong? I've had births that's been, challenges before, but this was something else. I felt awful. I felt so bad for this woman and her past, what happened to her, and then what happened with the birth. And it was really, really tough. It totally traumatized me.
So how did you deal with that?
Well, I cried and thought, this isn't normal. Like, asking what I normally, am I tired? Is that why I'm crying? But I knew it was just what had happened. So I have a really experienced friend who's also a doula, but she also does treatments. But for her, she's also a trained counsellor, so that really helped. If you can find someone like that, and what really helped was to talk to her about it and be able to tell her the story, and for her to make sense of why I had been affected so badly by this. And you can be traumatized from hearing a story, vicarious traumatization. So someone tells you a story that is so traumatic that you get traumatized. I know that sounds crazy, but I had never really thought about that. So it wasn't actually just protecting myself from the environment and the birth, it's just listening to someone else. How do you deal with hearing something where you can't just go, oh my God, I can't believe that happened? I mean, you have to be professional in a sense while still caring. So yeah, it was really, really tough. It was tough, but it helped to talk to her and for her to share that similar things that happened to her. And I'm sure that happens to midwives, to doulas, to anyone working with birthing women in that moment when women feel very vulnerable and they kind of realize why they might be behaving like they are. They might be remembering something. The birth is triggering something from their past, and then you will be hearing that story. And how do you handle that?
So did that kind of affect you going into future births as a result of having that? Did you carry the legacy of that a bit in your next birth?
I guess in a way I did. Yeah, I just was more aware that I need to, if I'm confronted with this again, I need to just know how do I handle this? Or it's not how you handle it, but knowing that this could happen, I think that's enough. Just to be prepared. Okay, I'm going to listen to this, and I'm aware that actually just listening to this could affect me and traumatize me, but I know now that that's okay. That might happen. But it would have been really good to have some kind of a tool to use for myself in that moment, to just, I don't know, put it in a box and put it away on a shelf or something. Yeah. But yeah, it did. And to be fair, I haven't done that many births since then. I still do births, but I think it kind of made me feel, I've done 12 years of this. Maybe it's also the other reason why that was so tough. Maybe it's a sign I should be doing something else. But I am more aware of it. Definitely.
Yeah. So you mentioned, if you had a tool that you could do stuff yourself, do you think, I would imagine in a birth, having been through 2 of my own births, but not as a doula, but knowing that, you just don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going to happen. And certainly I was able to use stuff that helped me to manage my fears during the birth, and I can only imagine that for a doula to be able to do stuff on the fly, as it were, would be really, really useful.
Yeah.
And that's something that you've hinted at. How useful would that be, to have that kind of tool to help you manage your fears, or to clear a trauma, or to keep yourself in fighting spiriting's the wrong word, but in a strong emotional place, to hold the birth space?
Well, it would just make such a huge difference in that moment, because there's so much else going on as well. You're holding, like you say, you're holding this space, and then you get this massive, rucksack full of heavy stones on your back. It's like, it gets harder, So to be able to have a tool where you just know how to, and to help the client. To have a tool which is really quick or an easy that you just literally do for yourself and for your client, and then you move on. I mean, I can't say I was feeling the weight of that backpack until I actually got home and the birth was over. But obviously it was impacting me without me knowing about it. You know, it was there, but because my awareness was not on that until it was all finished. Yeah. So having had something that I could have dealt with in the moment and made a difference for me there and for my client, you know, I think it made a difference for her just to tell me. I think that helped her. But, you know, there was still, the trauma was obviously still there.
And I'm just wondering, you know, just from what you said, whether you think there are other doulas out there that maybe don't stick with being a doula because maybe they've had one of those, but you had a birth like that after 12 years. But what happens if you have that in your first year or in your second year? And whether, you know, you've invested in all that training and then suddenly like, I don't think I can do this. Yeah. And it just knocks you for six. You know, do you see that happen a lot?
I don't know, actually. I do see doulas sometimes that have tough experiences early on. Yes, they will, you know, they feel maybe this isn't for me, or doulas worrying about having this experience and therefore they don't jump in. You know, you know, when you're self-employed, when you're a doula, you have to jump in and do the work and go for it and see what you're going to be like. I mean, you don't know until you've tried. And I think it might be putting some women off, actually, or doulas off. I definitely think there's a lot of midwives, though, feeling like that feeling of, you know, I don't think I can do this anymore. And they've also spent a lot, you know, years getting a degree and then working in a system that's breaking them. So for midwives to be able to have a tool as well, I think is crucial. I just don't hope I scared everyone now. It's like, oh my God.
No, I think it's being honest about the profession they're in.
Yeah.
And you've got to, I get this thing about, well, I don't want to make these women fearful about birth because I'm trying to get rid of the fear. But actually, you're just helping them to become aware of fears that were inside them already that they need to face up to. And the sooner you face up to fears when it comes to birth, the better. Yeah, so if you bring fear into the birth room, whether you're a worker or a mum, fear in the birth room is going to impact that mum, whether it's hers or somebody else's.
Exactly.
So, so I think not feeling guilty around making people scared is silly because it's not, you know, you can't make somebody scared of spiders. No. If they're not scared of spiders.
No, exactly. No, you're right. No, but it is important. And actually, it's quite important to know that you can be traumatized from just hearing a story. I hadn't really thought of that until I was just saying that to you now. Yeah. Because actually, it wasn't so much everything else. It was that. That's what set it all off.
Hello, welcome back. So I just hope that listening to that conversation about talking about self-care, having your care team around you, where there's anything that you want to now do, take action on to help to better support you and put things in place, make contacts with people that can support you in your birth work. So if there's anything that you can do, write it down, decide to take action and do what you can now so that you can better support the families that you work with. I'll see you in the next video.